The Nigeria Communications Commission, that's the NCC, has given the green light to telecoms operators to increase their tariff up by 50%. This decision was made in response to the prevailing market conditions and the significant gap between operational costs and current tariff. The NCC considered proposals from operators who had requested a tariff hike of over 100% due to the increasing costs of operation. However, the Commission capped the increase at 50% to balance the needs of operators with consumer protection. This adjustment will be implemented in strict adherence to the NCC guidance on tariff simplification 2024 and will remain within the tariff band stipulated in the 2013 NCC cost study. The NCC will review requests on a case-by-case basis, as is their standard practice for tariff reviews. Joining us via Zoom for this conversation is public finance analyst Olusegun Elemo. Good morning. It's good to have you join us.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, like they say, talk is cheap, but as it is looking like it's no longer cheap, and Nigerians are not having it, especially when you talk about tariff hike. Now, what are the implications or concerns that you have with regards to this move?
Well, I think your statement about talk being cheap is actually when it is not facilitated by some of these infrastructures, because digital communication, digital talking has never been cheap, especially for Nigerians. And you can argue it to the left or the right. I think we have to contextualize the situation that we're in Nigeria. You know, sometimes people come and say, we are paying the least for this, we are paying the least for that, comparatively, especially when you look on the continent. But again, you have to put in context, what is the income distribution of in Nigeria? What is the, what's the amount of money people have available for them as disposable income to be able to spend on things that matter to their lives. And when you now, add up what is happening and what has happened, because this is a conversation that has been on for quite some time now. And I listened to the Honorable Minister of Digital Communication, who had said at the time that he's in conversation with the telecom operators, and even though they had asked for about 100% tariff hike, he's confident that it will not be near that.
Right.
From my own point was I wasn't even looking at something around 50%, because when you then push this additional cost burden on the people. Yes, I know that the cost of doing business has also gone up for...
Absolutely. Mr. Elemo, because of our time, let me just quickly permit me to butt in. Because if you look at the affordable connectivity, we are looking at those that are on banks, for instance, where you have digital banking, education, healthcare, and making use of the Internet of Things. But with this hike in price, families that are already spending 30,000 naira will now be spending about 37 naira. How do you think we can mitigate against this impact on Nigerians, especially with the facing economic pressures?
Well, that's exactly the point I was trying to raise, because when you look at what people are spending on right now, in fact, the household consumption has actually been distorted. Usually you should have food, clothing, shelter, and maybe downward, you begin to talk about your health, because, you really have to eat and have a place to lay your head before you even begin to think about your health, for Nigerians especially. And now after food, you see that the cost that people are incurring is also on communications. It's also on communication. So right now, when you then it looks like government is giving on the one hand and then taking back on with another hand, with the minimum wage that has been increased, and then with all other costs. Because when you look at energy costs, when you look at education, cost of education, when you look at the inflation, the headline inflation right now, It's still going up as at December.
So if I hear you correctly, Segun, are you saying that there is no justification for this increase? Because since 2013, there hasn't been any increase with regards to this matter, and suddenly they're saying the cost, running cost, or whatever it might be, is the reason behind this. Are you saying it's not justified?
There is justification, but there is no justification for the percentage, the percentage hike. I mean, that's the point.
So what should be tenable then?
Well, maybe it should have been spread a little bit and graduated. Maybe something around 20% in the first, maybe this 2025, and then you can look at another increase by the end of 2026, and then again. I mean, you're not going to make all the money overnight. And when you look at the numbers of subscribers that these telecom operators have, for instance, one of them has about more than 80 million. So the cost is certainly not going to be on one subscriber. It's the cost that is shared across subscribers. Yes, I know that their infrastructure is also spread, across different locations, and the cost of maintaining and keeping them running is also there. But you must also understand that many of these telecom operators have not been held accountable properly in how they deliver the quality of services that they deliver to Nigerians. And that's also one conversation that needs to be there. And now the NCC is saying that what they are hoping is that by the time this hike is there, then we can talk about the quality of services that are being provided. And that has always been the question around accountability.
All right, Mr.
Services that are delivered to Nigerians.
All right, permit me to butt in, Mr. Elemo, because of our time. So should we now begin to look at the quality service delivery? Because right now, we are not even getting quality service delivery from these telecommunications. But then they will also tell you they have their masts around, they have their infrastructure to run, the cost of the cost of diesel, petrol, etc. is also impacting on them. So should we begin to look at, let us see them being fined, being accountable, being trustworthy when it comes to what the service they've rendered over time, which is not even commensurate with what they take away from their customers?
Accountability is the word. Like I said, the cost of doing business has gone up, so there's justification for some increase, and there's no doubt about that. The percentage increase is what the issue is, and it's too much at 50%. Now, in terms of accountability, you and I know that regulatory bodies aren't holding service providers accountable in this country. Just recently, I think it was a Consumer Protection Agency that was trying to hold an airline accountable, and then a supervising minister came and then was providing justification for what the airline is doing. And this is one airline that has been notorious for treating Nigerians and customers. So
you think that there won't be strict compliance as NCC has promised?
Professionalism. So I think that we need to deal with the issue of accountability with how services are delivered to Nigerians. And
so you think there would not be strict compliance as the NCC has promised?
No, I don't. Well, we should wait to see. But from history, there's not been. And whether they are going to be held accountable, I mean, I don't want to preempt what's going to happen, but the evidence will show.
So I know you must have received unsolicited messages, your money being deducted one way or the other. When you subscribe for data, to connect to the internet, you also have issues and all of that. Where do you think we need to begin to look at so that this issue, whatever decision that is taken at the end of the day, benefits the providers and the customers at the end of the day?
I think that you cannot only depend on the integrity of service providers, just the way you have even in the banking sector. You see what the CBN is doing, clamping down on public deposit banks to ensure that they comply with certain rules. I think that's what the NCC also, ought to be doing. The NCC must continue to look at its regulation and see whether the service providers are complying with the little detail of the regulation, and whether they are able to do that, to monitor it across all the subscribers, across all products that are delivered by this service provider, is another issue entirely. But I think by and large is that many of the regulators are dependent on the integrity of service providers. You and I know that businesses really have, they are about profits, and they would always maximize profit over customer satisfaction.
All right, one quick question, which is a yes or no. Do you think this will have an impact on the digital economy that the government has been talking about?
Well, it will have. Well, that particular sector has also been one of those sectors that have done very well in recent years. And I know that the cost of doing business that the service providers have also claimed have impacted their profit. And for instance, MTN has not declared dividends. So I know that it will impact in terms of how infrastructure will now be enhanced and all of that. But customer satisfaction is also very important.
Right. That's a fine place to leave the conversation. Thank you, public finance analyst Olusegun Elemo, for your time on the program. Thank you.